the next phase of this in the globalist Build Back Better Biden New World Order group comes to us as brought to my attention, because I have been paying attention to their website. Remember the World Economic Forum? They had this whole, we read it on the air, I think, about the Great Reset and what's coming and what they're going to do. And this is a great opportunity. Do you recall that? Just reading from their website at the time.
This has been tossed around a bit.
So on noagendasocial.com, Professor Wurr and Lady J, they found a Zoom video, basically a Zoom call for reptiles, and it is the World Economic Forum, the Great Reset presentation. And I have a couple clips from it, and I think it's good to listen because this is pretty much, I think, what Joe Biden is going for. But in general, this is where most leaders of the world will start pushing this crisis towards. And we start with Adrian Monck. He'll give us a little intro to the Zoom call and tell us what we can expect.
Hello from the World Economic Forum in Geneva. My name is Adrian Monck, and I'll be moderating today's session. Welcome to this virtual meeting, which has brought together leaders and stakeholders from across the global community for our COVID action platform. Today, this meeting serves as a launch pad for the next chapter, the Great Reset. We have contributions from His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, from UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, from IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva, and from many more in the next hour and a quarter. But to get us underway, let's hear from the forum's executive chairman and founder, Professor Klaus Schwab.
So Klaus, and if you're not familiar with Klaus, you got to look up Klaus Schwab. He can't help it, but with the bald head, I mean, he just looks like an evil guy, like Dr. Evil. But they've shot him with this blue backdrop. He's on a platform in a chair, and they shoot it from underneath. So all he's missing is a white pussycat. And he has the most grotesque, he is like Dr. Evil. And, of course, the accent didn't help.
Thank you, Adrian. It is obvious that we are in the midst of the most severe crisis the world has experienced.
Hold on a second.
I knew you'd like it.
First of all, is this whole thing not a scam? Or is this really a true?
It's Klaus Schwab. It's the guy from the World Economic Forum.
And we're
Davos.
sure that these are the real. They're not doubles. Isn't that the whole thing's not a scam?
No, I appreciate you asking that. No, this is. I can verify it comes from their website. The World Economic Forum is the Davos crowd. Klaus Schwab, it's his party.
Completely out of control.
Oh, you're just starting to hear the beginning.
They need an art director.
The most severe crisis the world has experienced since World War II. 75 years ago, countries and people came together to shape the post-war global order.
Oh, global order!
Decades of peace, increased global cooperation and prosperity to hundreds of millions of people around the world.
It was good what we did then, yeah?
To hundreds of millions of people around the world.
Okay.
The COVID-19 crisis has shown us that our old systems are not fit anymore for the 21st century.
Okay.
It has laid bare the fundamental lack of social cohesion, fairness, inclusion, and equality.
Yeah, are you catching on? It sounds like we need some equality, fairness.
Now is the historical moment, the time, not only to fight the virus, but to shape the system.
Shape the system.
For the need for the post-corona era. We have a choice. To remain passive, which would lead to the amplification of many of the trends we see today.
Such as?
Polarization, nationalism, racism.
Oh, I see. So all of that is only enhanced by the coronavirus, the COVID-19 crisis.
And ultimately increase social unrest and conflicts.
Oh.
But we have another choice. We can build a new social contract particularly integrating the next generation. We can change our behavior to be in harmony with nature again. And we can make sure that the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution are best utilized to provide us with better lives.
Okay.
In short, we need a great reset.
So let's go to the Secretary General of the United Nations. This is another one of our favorites. This is Antonio Guterres.
So he's at the same Zoom meeting.
Well, he's in the meeting, yes. This is all one,
Okay.
and Charles, everyone, this is one big Zoom meeting. It's really interesting to watch. And here is his pitch.
I send you my warmest greetings and best wishes on the launch of the Great Reset. The COVID-19 pandemic is causing enormous human suffering and economic hardship. A microscopic virus has closed down entire countries and economies. In doing so, it has exposed the fragility that characterizes much of our world. But this fragility is not confined to health systems.
Interesting that the word fragility is used. Since we just happen to have the white fragility book and everything, it's interesting that that's being applied to our systems in this case.
Runaway climate change, unsustainable levels of inequality.
I'm sorry, we're at climate change.
Wait, did he say runaway climate change?
Let's listen again.
Runaway climate change, unsustainable levels of
I think he did say runaway climate change.
Yeah, I knew it was climate change, but I didn't know it was runaway climate change.
It has
That's new.
Let's see.
Runaway climate change,
Yeah.
unsustainable levels of inequality, and the lawlessness of cyberspace.
The lawlessness of... John, that's us. Yeah! We're lawless in cyberspace.
Are all warning signs that we must heed. The Great Reset is a welcome recognition that this human tragedy must be a wake-up call. As you rightly say,
Oh my
it is
God!
Oh, no, it gets better. It gets better.
How can
imperative
it
that
get better? You mean by that? Do you mean it gets worse?
Yes, it's better for the entertainment value on the show, is what I mean.
Oh, yeah, well, it's already
Obviously.
gotten there.
as you rightly say, it is imperative that we reimagine, rebuild, redesign, reinvigorate, and rebalance our world.
Rebalance the world. So maybe it is flat.
The scale of the pandemic and its social and economic impact demands strong unity and solidarity, particularly towards developing countries. Specific measures must be targeted at those most affected: women, older people, youth, low-wage workers, the informal sector, and people caught up in humanitarian crises. Rebalancing investment, harnessing science and technology, and advancing the transition to net zero emissions, all elements of the Great Reset, are fundamental to building the future we need. We have already called for an economic stimulus package equivalent to a double-digit percentage, more than 10%.
This part I didn't
of the global
understand.
economy.
So the UN is, when they say we've already called for an economic stimulus package in double-digit percentage, what does that mean? That everybody that all countries are supposed to do that? Or does
No,
it mean the
no.
bankers print up some money?
No,
Okay.
they want the United States to give them more money.
Ah, that's what it is. I figured that
It's the great gouge.
the Great Reset
The
preceded
great
by
reset, the great gouge.
the
They
Great
want our money.
Gouge. All right.
All elements of the Great Reset are fundamental to building the future we need. We have already called for an economic stimulus package equivalent to a double-digit percentage, more than 10% of the global economy. Last week, the United
What?
Nations together
We need 10% of the global economy, America. Give it to us.
10% of the global economy. Last week, the United Nations, together with the governments of Jamaica and Canada, convened the largest gathering of world leaders since the start of the pandemic to lay solid foundations for a sustainable recovery based on the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development
There it is.
and the Paris
There you go.
Agreement.
So he's all over the
You know,
20.
well, I want to stop for a second because we get some criticism, but you hear it all the time. Oh, people, they're always bringing that up. As if they're not actually throwing it in our faces.
You mean like the New World Order and the elites and the money people and the United Nations and all this kumbaya globalism? Yeah, this is it.
And they throw it in. They always bring this 2030 up. We bring, and they say, well, all the right wingers are always referring to it as though it's something real. Well, because it is real. The guy just said it right there. They want to take 10% of the global economy, do with it what they want
for equality.
for some sort of equality they're not going to achieve, and then and try to gouge us for the
majority of it. Well, it gets better.
This is disgusting listening to these people. You've made me sick.
Okay, well, grab your barf bag. Here's Prince Charles.
These are unprecedented times. Every person on the planet has been impacted by the coronavirus pandemic. Our world came to a standstill, and it became clear that we did not have the answer or the mechanisms to address such an unprecedented global threat. The threats posed by this dreadful pandemic came upon us suddenly with very little warning.
Be quiet. He's talking about this dreadful pandemic, and you're doing nothing but you're just mumbling through it.
The threat of climate change has been...
Oh, my. He's going... Within 10 seconds, he's going straight to climate change.
Pandemic came upon us suddenly with very little warning. The threat of climate change has been more gradual, but its devastating reality for many people and their livelihoods around the world, and its ever greater potential to disrupt, surpasses even that of COVID-19.
So let this be a lesson to you.
This crisis has shown the importance of investing in science, technology, innovation. We are on the verge of catalytic breakthroughs that will alter our view of what is possible and profitable within the framework of a sustainable future. It is time, therefore, to align sustainable solutions with funding in a way that can transform the market.
Here we go.
This would be the most dramatic act of responsible leadership ever seen by the global private sector, and would at once provide a catalytic incentive for the public sector to follow.
Does this remind you at all about some of those Democrat points that were in the HEROES Act that is now being argued over?
Thing.
It's exactly the same thing.
The Democrats are all in on this. Let's destroy the whole system so we can be better off.
We continue with His Royal Highness.
We have a golden opportunity to seize something good from this crisis.
Oh!
Its unprecedented shockwaves may well make people more receptive to big visions of change. Global crises like pandemics and climate change know no borders and highlight just how interdependent we are as one people sharing one planet.
Oh, that's interesting. This shocks people. This is a shock to people. So they're to shock them awake. They're going to want to shock them into climate change.
We need only look to the United Nations Secretary General, to the IMF, the EU, the Petersburg Climate Dialogue, the Canadian government, the COP26 Universities Network, and business leaders around the world to see this. And as we move from rescue to recovery, therefore we have a unique but rapidly shrinking window of opportunity to learn lessons and reset ourselves on a more sustainable path. It is an opportunity we have never had before and may never have again. So we must use all the levers we have at our disposal, knowing that each and every one of us has a vital role to play. So I can only encourage us all to think big and act now.
Think big. So there's a whole bunch of
phrase. Think big, act now. What?
The lady from the IMF came by. She talked, and it went back and forth. There's only one last clip I have, and I thought.
Luckily, I want to say, luckily for all of us listening and everybody out there, this is a group of the biggest blowhards that probably can't accomplish anything. So,
right. But they certainly have influence. I'm looking at the European Union. The European Union's all in on this. They're passing laws left and right to support this entire idea. And the Great Reset, you watch this term start floating around. This is a great reset. Yes. So one guy that was, to me, very out of character, but clearly a partner in the Great Reset team was a representative from MasterCard. I thought that was interesting, so I clipped him.
The person I'm going to turn to first, Ajay Banga of MasterCard, Chief Executive Officer of MasterCard. Ajay, what do we need to see from a business perspective to address this pressing social and economic need for change that this pandemic has really laid bare?
So first of all, thank you for having me. And
is this the kind of guy who's supposed to answer this type of question? I guess.
I would think he'd be more interested in his, EBITDA returns and some other tax aspects and profit loss.
He's got a couple things in here. MasterCard is doing more than just managing your credit card.
I've been saying for a while that the world's problems fit on three sides of a triangle.
Whoa!
Oh,
what is this, a Silicon Valley like expression?
It sounds like it is. I've never heard it, but it probably is.
The problems fit on three sides of the triangle.
That's the prism you should look through. We just talked about them. It's one versus many.
Oh, it's one of these Indian guys.
Yes.
Nature, and the unfortunate foundation is long-term versus short-term. As a company, we made a commitment, Adrian, some years ago to go after 500 million people to be brought in for financial inclusion by 2020. We did that, and now we've upped it to 1 billion and added that we will bring in 50 million micro SMEs and 25 million women entrepreneurs, all part of that.
Talking about market share.
Oh, yeah.
This is many side of the triangle. The other one, the one about the climate and the man versus nature, we aren't directly as impactful on nature. We tried to use our presence with consumers to say, what is it consumers understand? They don't understand carbon credits, but they understand the planting of trees. Why am I saying all this? In the process of doing all this, I've come to two lessons, and that's the answer to your question. There is not enough money in government or philanthropy to make it possible to deal with the three sides of this triangle. You need private sector capital, private sector ingenuity, private sector technology, and private sector capabilities to come to the party. We have to make it part of our business model, which were those two examples I gave you of inclusion and climate.
You have to stop for a second. Some of these Indian guys, I mean, the whole country is kind of very adept at talking like this and sounding like they're saying something
when they're really not. When they're really
saying
not.
Absolutely nothing. He's going on and saying and it's just like he's getting out of this like smelling like a rose because he sounds like he said something. But this is just a guru style bull crap.
Yes,
that a lot of Indians can do very well.
Oh, Monck.
Well, Ohm's not. Ohm's actually level. This guy's
he's at the top of his game.
He really is good.
He's the top of it. I think many many of our producers will be listening, going, "Yep, I know that kind of guy."
Yeah.
Well, you know what? If you're thinking that, you're racist.
Those two examples I gave you of inclusion and climate. You need enormous trust between the private sector and the public sector for this to actually work.
Ugh.
That trust is hard to come by.
Stand by, because I'm going to tell you what the trust is all about.
What I have seen during the course of the pandemic is some light at the end of the tunnel on the trust. The private sector and governments are working, and the NGO sector are working really well together. Whether it's the therapeutic accelerator we launched with Gates and the Wellcome Trust, or the work I see on SMEs around the world.
So, wait a minute. The therapeutic accelerator we launched with Gates.
What the hell is that?
Well, an accelerator it's like an incubator for technology, for biotech firms.
An incubator accelerator.
Yeah, so you get the accelerator, and then everyone cashes in on it. Gates, MasterCard, it's groovy.
And the NGO sector.
Scam is what you're saying.
Oh, wait for it.
Are working really well together. Whether it's the therapeutic accelerator we launched with Gates and the Wellcome Trust, or the work I see on SMEs around the world, or benefit distribution and the use of data and analytics for purposes of directing activity.
Okay. Listen to what he says here, because now he's slipping up.
But wait, did he say the Wellcome Trust, another one of these operations? The Wellcome Trust, I think, is bigger than the Gates Foundation.
I don't know. I think he said...
Whether it's the therapeutic accelerator we launched with Gates and the Wellcome Trust, or
you're right.
the work I see on SMEs around the world, or benefit distribution and the use of data and analytics for purposes of directing activity.
Using user data for purposes of directing activity. I think we understand what that means. Tracking your behavior.
Mention Google, for God's sake.
Tracking your behavior, and then nudging you in the direction they want you to go with messaging. Right?
when you do a search, you get the search they want you to see.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
I think this issue of bringing the private sector to the party and bringing it in a way that the trust between the private and the public sector come together, those are imperatives for us if we're going to make real progress on moving the needle and seizing the opportunity that we just heard about.
Okay, so let me explain what I know he's doing. And I didn't know about the Wellcome Trust, but yeah, that's big news. So a couple of headlines. MasterCard Digital Wellness Program to enhance transparency, security, and choice for online shopping. You really need to look at African news to understand what they're rolling out and what is in beta test on the continent of Africa. Africa to become testing ground for the Trust Stamp vaccine record and payment system. A new biometric identity platform partnered with the Gates-funded Gavi Vaccine Alliance. That's where the Wellcome Trust is. That's where the Gates Foundation is. That's where the vaccine companies are. The Gavi Vaccine Alliance and MasterCard will launch in West Africa and combine COVID-19 vaccinations, cashless payments, and potential law enforcement applications. A biometric digital identity platform that evolves just as you evolve is set to be introduced in low-income remote communities in West Africa thanks to a public-private partnership between the Bill Gates-backed Gavi Vaccine Alliance, MasterCard, and the AI-powered identity authentication company Trust Stamp. I don't have to explain what this does. This proves that you've had the vaccine. And it's a part of your credit card. The thing you use for everything. Hey, want to go to the stadium? Pay with your credit card. I'm sorry, you don't have a Trust Stamp.
Yeah, this is a roundabout way of what the Chinese are doing with their social scoring.
Rarely a day goes by that my lovely wife doesn't say to me, "We're becoming China!" And I can't disagree anymore. This is totally what... And I think it's great that the president issued this... the TikTok thing, who gives a crap about that? But WeChat, oh, yeah. I mean, that has to go. We're not allowed to have any... Twitter, that's not allowed in China. WhatsApp.
I have the story. I have the ironic report. Oh. It's a nightmare. So here's the... play this clip. Executive order banning WeChat.
Subtext here is that the United States is discriminating against Chinese companies because it is afraid of China's economic might. But really, these executive orders are raising a lot of questions because of their sort of vague wording, especially the term transaction, which has not been specified here. A lot of questions raised, especially about the WeChat app, which is basically used for everything in daily life here in China by close to 1 billion people. So people in the United States with a lot ties to China, the Chinese diaspora, are wondering if they're going to be able to communicate with their family back home. People with business interests in China are wondering if they're going to be able to do financial transactions using the payment app over WeChat. Companies like Apple that have significant business in China are wondering if WeChat is no longer available in the App Store. What does that mean for its business? Or, for instance, Tencent, the company that owns WeChat, has a number of stakes in U.S. tech companies like gaming companies. What will it mean for that sector specifically? So over the next 45 days, the Commerce Secretary of the United States has promised clarification on what this word transaction means, but Beijing has already promised retaliation. But it's not clear what this is going to look like, considering the fact that U.S. tech companies like Facebook, Google, or Twitter are already banned in China.
Exactly. And
here's your irony.
Yeah.
So everyone's making a big fuss. Hey, this should be retaliation for them being banned.
But there are better clips. I didn't get any myself. But what you want is, he's hurting Chinese Americans. They can't connect with their family in China through the WeChat. They can't send money back home.
Yeah, well,
that's exactly how they're playing it. It's crazy. Sure. And none of I don't think any of our apps are allowed. But really, forget WeChat, although I think WeChat is quite an evil platform, at least the way the CCP uses it. Tencent is interesting because they have their hands in everything. I think they should divest of their Reddit investment. the gamers are very worried about this. They own large stakes in most of the big gaming studios and companies. And you know what? While we're at it, shut down the NBA.
That's already shut down. What?
There's not much left to shut down. Yeah, everyone. The ratings are horrible.
Well, who's going to watch these stupid games?
Yeah,
they're like exhibition games. And then you got to look at all the messages on the back of different vote. I look at it and say, who's this new player? Vote.
No, the other guy was
Bill Vogt. Is he now playing in the NBA? I didn't know this.
I like the white guy with Ally on his T-shirt. The one white guy.
Your favorite. It's your favorite.
So
Joe Ally.
Joe Ally. Joe Jali. Yeah. Meanwhile, over in Beirut, the Chinese have been trying to get into the port to build as part of their Belt and Road for quite a while. They were very close. I think
they were signed up. Wasn't that port signed up for Belt and Road?
Last year, they did sign an agreement, but nothing had really started. And last year's also kind of when the problem started, by coincidence, I'm sure, in Lebanon, people not happy. There's all kinds of, the prime minister, it's blown up. He's missing. Previous to this, there's an investigation that's been stopped. And meanwhile, China is sending, I love this term, peacekeepers to help Lebanon. So, whenever the United States or Russia or the United Nations, but certainly when China is sending you peacekeepers, it's usually the beginning of nothing good.